Thank you all for inviting me. This is a great introduction to the Thai Pune. I had a very nice conversation outside with many of you, and I was trying to ask you, why have you come to this session? And some of you did say to me that you wanted to be motivated, and I was thinking, who's going to motivate me? And some of you said that you were entrepreneurs yourself, and you were trying to do some other things. I have to say that over my lifespan, I have spoken on many topics. India-Pakistan relations, econometrics. I've spoken on women in leadership. I've spoken on South Asia conflict resolution. I've spoken on mentoring, but I have never spoken on my story. And I'm thinking, what am I going to say? Nobody has ever said, tell me what is your story. And I think it's very interesting that I have actually forced myself to sit down and think, what exactly is my story? So, supposing I were to stand in front of you and say, I'm a wife and a mother and a daughter and a sister, which story do you want to hear? The wife's story, the daughter's story, the mother's story? What I'm trying to say is that there are stories, and then there are stories, and then there are stories. To me, there is no such thing as my story. It's a kaleidoscope. You turn the kaleidoscope and you see one story. You turn the kaleidoscope and you see another story. It's like the Rubik's Cube. Sometimes you turn it and it becomes all green. Sometimes you want to make it all red, but you can't. That's a story waiting to be told. When you put it all into red, you got a red story. When you put it all into white, you got a white story. So, the story of the session, my story, I'm just redefining it for myself, not for you. So I have to choose which part of my Rubik's Cube am I going to show you today. And I decided that I will tell you the learnings from my story. Because no matter what the story, no matter what the color on the Rubik's Cube is the same. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how each one of the colors of the Rubik's Cube actually have some very similar learnings. Now, before I begin, I want to make a couple of comments on Bharati's presentation. One is that, the word entrepreneur, is there anybody here who knows where the word entrepreneur came from? Can you have the light on, please? Where does the word entrepreneur come from? Please. I beg your pardon? France? No, who invented the word? Who invented the word entrepreneur? How come nobody has asked you in Thai? How come nobody has ever said, where does the word entrepreneur come from? You understand what is my story? Please.
See, it comes from a Hindi word
I love it.
called Antarprerna. Antarprerna.
Okay. And it is defined as?
Self-motivation.
Nice. So, I'm an economist. For me, it's got to be facts on the table. And this is one part of my story. How come nobody asks that you're sitting in Thai? Where does the word entrepreneur come from? So the word entrepreneur, and I'm not saying this because I'm sitting in Thai, this is something I know, that the word enterprise as an entity was actually founded by Joseph Schumpeter. He's known for it. And Joseph Schumpeter wrote about enterprise in the early 19th century when he was talking about capital. He was talking about wealth creation. He was talking about entities, which you now have a private limited company, but you're paid, even if you're the CEO, you get a salary because there is an entity. The one who starts it is called an entrepreneur. And there is a process of creative destruction, which he called creative destruction, whereby an enterprise has to regenerate itself all the time. But an enterprise always has one thing to do, and that is create profits for the shareholders. That's where the word entrepreneurship actually comes from. Now, when you talk about enterprise, entrepreneurship means you've got to have enterprise. And enterprise not as enterprise as in passion. Enterprise, you've got to create an entity. that makes profits. Only then you're called an entrepreneur, otherwise you're not, according to Joseph Schumpeter. Now, of course, you can change the definition in the 20th or the 21st century, but till then it will remain the classical definition. Now, as the problem I was having when Bharti was talking about the session being under women entrepreneurs is that an entrepreneur is somebody who starts. But after 2 to 3 years, you've got to make profits. And then you're called a CEO. You're the chief executive officer of the company. So this whole thing of women entrepreneurs bothers me because it tells me nobody's ever succeeded. You didn't ever escalate to become an CEO. When I take out my card, I say I'm the CEO of my company. I don't say I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not stuck at my 2-year level. I think this whole business of women entrepreneurs, you've got to change the language. You have to say, I'm a CEO of my company. Unless you're a failure, in which case you should get out of your company and pass it over to the next CEO. 2 years is enough. Including all these huge, entrepreneurs, forums on women that they have. Hey, anybody more than 2 years in that business should be out. That's the definition of entrepreneurship. What I'm trying to tell you about my story is that I'm into rigor of every sort. If there is no rigor, I don't want it. Because then there is no joy for me in it. You can say excellence, you can say whatever. To me, it's called rigor. Bring out the facts. What is an entrepreneur? How come there are women entrepreneurs? Where are the male entrepreneurs? Why is there a segregation? Why is it that when I get visiting cards from a man who begins his company 2 days before it's called CEO? Why? And a woman who's been there for 10 years will say, very quietly, I'm an entrepreneur. How does that work? I'm still on entrepreneurship. I'm still on the word. I haven't moved from the word. And I'm saying that word has to be embraced in its true classical form. Not by the startups of California. Those are the reinvention of the word. And I'm happy to embrace it. But let us understand where it came from and where it is today. So just for you to say, you can put the session under women entrepreneurship, but ultimately we have to be CEOs. That's the only way we can sit down with Ratan Tata and say, hello, we're peers, we're CEOs. That's the only time I can say with Narendra Modi, hey, I'm your peer. I'm not a startup. I'm a CEO just like you. Okay, you might be, far more successful, but we are peers. So these are some of the opening statements that I want to make because I think it's very helpful for Thai to know some of these things. I might come from a totally different angle, but then that's my angle. I was telling some people in the audience today that, I always tell everybody, call me at your own risk. You have no idea what I'm going to say. Whatever comes to me is whatever I will say as an extempore speaker. Now, taking that to my slide, is the same thing. What is my story? I'm an economist, I'm an Indo-Pak expert, I'm a visiting fellow, I'm a CEO, I'm a founder of the Forum for Women in Leadership, I'm a social entrepreneur, I am a CSR. Which one should I tell you? Which one do you want to know? Which story? See what I'm saying? By my story, I'm having a conflict. Which story should I tell you? So I'm going to stick today with a story that belongs to the Forum for Women in Leadership because I believe that it's a very important social enterprise. And I'm saying social enterprise because I don't want to fit into the social bucket. It's social enterprise. We make profits, we put them back into the business. I don't know, but somebody can please do the homework to find out. If we're the only social enterprise in India today, which is a private limited company doing a social cause, I would like to know. Please do your homework and let me know also. So, I'm going to give you a couple of hashtags from my story. The first hashtag is no barriers, only open minds. Hashtag number 1. Okay, that's the first part of my story. Whether I am an economist or whether I'm an Indo-Pak or a mother or a daughter, hey, no barriers. Only open mind. You come to me, you have an open mind, or else don't come. When you can make your mind open, please come. I do the same to myself. It's not for somebody else. The hashtag is for me. This is my story. This is my hashtag. So the question is not who is going to let me. The question is who's going to stop me. Whatever I want to do, who's going to stop me? Does anybody know who wrote that quotation?
Ayn Rand.
There you go. Ayn Rand in the Fountainhead.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ayn Rand in the Fountainhead wrote that. Who's going to stop me? And I